welcome back. So today we're going to look at some of the alternatives to the anti-Sicilian lines that we've already looked at. And this is specifically for the anti-Sicilians with the Closed Sicilian and Grand Prix attack. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, based off of our repertoire of either the Taimanov or the Con-Sicilian, we could have a bit of a problem here after knight c3. Say, for instance, if knight c6 is played, white then has bishop b5, and these types of Rossolimo-like positions have scored very well for white, and I mean, it develops a complicated struggle. So I began looking at some alternatives that would still allow us to transpose back into our mainline Sicilians if white backdoors it and goes knight f3 and then d4. So a6, and regardless of if they play f4 or g3, we'll be able to get our typical play. We're not so concerned with if they play an early a4. You'll just play the Con or Taimanov as normal with e6 and knight c6. So after g3, b5, just standard development. And now at this point, there are a few different ways for white to play. The overall major theme that you need to remember in this position, we'll see from this next example. So after bishop e3, the move d5 is crying to be played, so d4 can be played. But it's very, very important to remember the theme that you do not want to capture on d5 with this pawn if he can fix your pawns. So first you prepare it with knight f6, because for instance, if d5 immediately, pawn takes, d4, this fixes black's light square bishop on the wrong side of the pressure of the d5 square. And then now the pawn structure is going to be resolved unfavorably for black. So it's very important to be able to capture back on d5 with a knight, which isn't very typical, but it's very strong here. So say in this position after pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, you can see how black just gets a comfortable and equal position here. And you can play on for quite some time. So going back to the main line, after e6, we see f4. This is probably the most aggressive attempt. Go ahead and play d5. Now, if he tries to take, remember the theme, you don't want to take with that pawn. So you play knight f6, very, very important move. And say if queen e2, takes. And again, we get a comfortable position. So going back, let's say typically they're going to lock the center. This is a standard maneuver. Now, you want to play against this structure that's been created by playing h5. Now, this is going to secure the f5 square for a knight. Since the knight's been deprived of its most natural square on f6, we need to find another route to make it effective piece. So knight h6. Now we're continuing our development. Now we have firm control over the d4 square. So I'm not so sure about this move knight d1. With analysis, I kind of like the move queen f2 better. And then for instance, this is a good option for black, because if he ever takes, we'll be able to use the open c file for a rook. And this type of plan is very nice for black. So after knight d1, you see c4, and this is just making good use of black's extra queenside space. And after knight e3, bishop c5, and you can really see that typically white has gotten in a move like f5 and is able to play aggressively, but in this variation he just has a nothing position, and black is actually the aggressor. And I mean, now we're threatening both h3 and h takes g3, so black's assured an advantage. So this is the first of two videos with the Anti-Sicilians featuring A6. We'll look at the Grand Prix in the next video.